Hey, how's it going, guys? TND coming back at you. As we get closer and closer to the Lightfall expansion, I think right now is the perfect time to take stock of where we're at in the game as far as exotic weapons are concerned. The overall viability of these weapons can fluctuate over time as certain guns are buffed and nerfed. Different exotics can also pop in and out of the meta as the overall PVE sandbox has changed every season or two. So what are the best and most important exotics to have as part of your loadouts going into the new expansion? Let's take a look. First up, we have one of the most underrated exotics in the entire game, the Tractor Cannon Void Heavy Shotgun. This weapon can be acquired via random exotic engram drops. Chances are you probably have this one if you've been playing the game for any significant length of time. Its biggest use in PvE is its exotic trait Repulsor Force, which applies a 30% global debuff to enemies, something that no other weapon in the entire game is capable of right now. It does have a catalyst that can be acquired also as a world drop, which adds extra rounds to the magazine, making it a more useful gun for general gameplay use as well. Next up, we have one of the best burst damage weapons in the entire game, the Grand Overture Arc Heavy Machine Gun. This weapon was the Season Pass exotic for Season of the Risen and can be acquired via the Monument to Lost Lights next to the Vault in the Tower at the cost of 1 exotic Cypher, 100,000 Glimmer, 200 Legendary Shards, and 1 Golf Ball. No small price indeed, but this guy got a buff to his burst damage rockets in Season 19, making it an absolute monster in regards to pumping out as much damage in as little time as possible. If we get another encounter like Atrax 1 in the new Lightfall raid, then you can expect to see a lot of this exotic on our loadouts for that one. Number 8 is a very different type of exotic machine gun, the Xenophage Solar LMG. This gun can be had from a quest you get at Eris Morn after completing the Shadowkeep expansion campaign on the moon. It is a bit lengthy and involves going to the Pit of Heresy dungeon to complete, but the trouble is well worth it as this thing's solar slugs can one-tap most enemies in the game and offers solid DPS output as well. Its damage fall off is basically non-existent as well. I call Xeno the best sniper in the entire game because it is a beast at just eliminating targets from range with ease. It's a super flexible exotic weapon that made Day 1 Oracles and Vaults of Glass a total cakewalk. Definitely do that exotic quest if you've been putting it off. Next up is a weapon that a few months ago might have been number 1 on this list, the Divinity Arc Trace Rifle. This gun can be acquired from a quest on the moon after defeating a Vex Minotaur in the lunar battleground near the Altars of Sorrow. The final step of this quest involves going through the Garden of Salvation raid and completing a series of puzzles as you've progressed through the Black Garden. This gun was basically mandatory in raids since it provided not only a permanent crit spot on bosses, but it also debuffed them as well. In Season 19, that debuff was lowered from 30% to 15%, bringing it in line with many other debuffs in the game, such as Void Grenades with Echo of Undermining. But although it's fallen off a bit, this weapon is still incredibly important to endgame activities, and if we get another boss like Rolk in the new raid that likes to move around the map a lot, then Divinity will play a huge role even without its full debuff capabilities. Number 6 is another classic quest weapon, the Outbreak Perfected Kinetic Pulse Rifle. This gun was originally the reward for completing the old 0-hour mission, but it now can be purchased at the exotic kiosk in the tower. This gun offers what is basically the best DPS you can find on a primary weapon, so anytime you're struggling with heavy or special ammo, the old quote switch to Outbreak strategy can be make or break for you, as this gun was a staple in many teams' clears of Day 1 Caretaker, as that guy's DPS check went hard as leaving most players with no ammo and little options. Its exotic catalyst makes its Siva nanite swarms do even more damage, so definitely hit up a Shuro Chi checkpoint and complete that if you haven't already. Before we get into the top 5, let me know in the comments what are your favorite exotics going into Lightfall. This list was tough, and there are definitely many worthy options that I couldn't fit on the list. Also, make sure to subscribe while you're down there. Got a lot of content coming up with the new expansion, you don't want to miss it. On to number 5, and we have another DPS staple, the Izanagi's Burden Kinetic Sniper Rifle. This Forsaken exotic can be purchased at the kiosk at the tower as well, with its main use in PvE being that you can hot swap it with many auto-loading heavy weapons for a big-time DPS rotation. The rotation you want to use is shoot heavy, then Izzy, hold reload to load the one big boy round, then hot swap to your heavy and so on. This strategy is a bit of a skill issue, not gonna lie, but IMO, this gun will be very, very useful going forward, especially if we see a damage meta in the future with less linear fusion rifles come Lightfall. Its catalyst increases the damage of the honed edge shots and is a random drop from playlist activity, so definitely grab that one as more damage is never a bad thing. Next up is my favorite turn your brain off ad clear weapon, the Trinity Goal Arc Bow. Trinity Goal is a world loot pool weapon with its weapon perk Lightning Rod loads the bow with chain lightning arrows, which you can literally just shoot at the floor and clear entire groups of enemies without aiming. The base version of this weapon gives Lightning Rod only on precision kills, so you need to get the catalyst for this guy, which is a random drop from Vanguard playlist activities. With the catalyst, now you only need kills with the bow in general to get the chain lightning going, and once it's going, it is very powerful. This bow doesn't scale super well to higher level activities, but it is still very viable and very useful. Absolutely have it ready to go when Lightfall drops. Into the top 3, which is where we really start to see our heavy hitters, starting with Arbolus, the Kinetic Linear Fusion Rifle. This gun is another World Loot Pool exotic, so it can be acquired as a random drop out in the world or available when Xur sells it. This exotic needs no introduction as it is the ultimate shield breaking machine. Bungie recently announced that they are removing match game from higher level activities come Lightfall, but let's be real, it's already been gone since Arby just pops any and all shields with one shot anyway. Not only that, but this gun also gets anti-barrier stuns, and its catalyst gives Genesis, reloading the weapon anytime it breaks an enemy shield. This gun is basically glued to all my characters as its use as a utility weapon and damage dealer really isn't matched by any other weapon in the entire game. Into the top 2, starting with the most iconic weapon in the history of the franchise, the Gallarhorn Solar Rocket Launcher. You can get this gun as a quest reward from your first clear of the Grasp of Avarice dungeon, and this gun absolutely carried my team through the Witch Queen Legendary campaign last year. Not only does this thing pack a huge punch, but its exotic perk gives Wolfpack rounds to your teammates' legendary rockets as well, making it not only incredible as a damage weapon, but a support weapon as well. Its catalyst gives you 2 rounds in the mag as well, which honestly feels like cheating. Also, you can get it as a nerf gun, what's not to like? But it is not number 1, and honestly, this is one of the easiest choices in the whole list. The most important exotic to get before Lightfall is the Wither Horde Kinetic Grenade Launcher. This is another kiosk weapon, and honestly, there's no weapon like it in the entire game. Its core value is a crowd control weapon, allowing you to create damaging blights in the ground, which are great for planting at choke points and enemy spawn points, but it's also a staple of many boss DPS builds, as it can tag larger enemies with constant tick damage, allowing players to hot swap to heavy weapons or throw grenades if you're using something like Starfire Protocol. It's the ultimate exotic weapon that goes well with basically any loadout, but, and this is a huge but, you need to get the catalyst for this guy, which gives it auto-loading holster, making it the god of all hot swap weapons. This catalyst is a reward for completing the bank job quest, which can be acquired from the quest archive next to the postmaster in the tower. This mission can be a bit tedious to complete, but I do have good news, as next season this quest will be affected by the season pass catalyst booster, meaning you will get this guy finished 4 times faster than usual if you have that perk unlocked. Awesome change and much needed, as this is by far the most important catalyst to get in the entire game in my opinion. Anyway, let me know which exotics I miss and why my list is terrible. Would love to know what you guys would have ranked in here instead of my picks. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to catch all of my latest Destiny 2 content, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Happy hunting, Guardians.